Hello, everybody. Welcome to Action Update, Advocacy on the PTA Differential. 2021 was a busy year for us with some big wins for our patients and our profession, but we weren't able to defeat the PTA differential. But our work's not done. We're here today with our expert panel of Justin Elliott, VP of APTA Governmental Affairs, and Kate Giller, Director of Health Policy and Payment. They're going to update us on where we are now with our advocacy efforts and where we go from here. Remember, everyone, we want this to be interactive, so please put your questions and comments in the chat as we go, and we'll get them answered for you. Justin, Kate, thank you both for being with us again today. So, Kate, the last time you and Justin were with us was in the fall of 2021. Can you remind us of where we were at that time with the PTA payment differential and talk about where we are now?
Yeah, so as you all remember, at that point, we were dealing with the final physician fee schedule rule. Now, while we did have some wins in that rule, the overall story was that CMS was moving ahead as planned with implementation of the differential. Now, I want to highlight some of the wins because even though they're small, they're significant. First of all, we got remote therapeutic monitoring covered by Medicare, and not just for physical therapists, but for physical therapist assistants as well. You all can participate in all 5 of the remote therapeutic monitoring codes beginning this year. We also moved the needle a little bit on the application of the CQ modifier. There are now even more situations where the PTA differential does not apply, even though a PTA has participated in the delivery of services to a patient. And any chance we can get to whittle away the application of the modifier is a good thing. And, we also got CMS to come out on the record and indicate that the differential only applies to the portion of the fee paid for directly by CMS. So usually your patients pay a 20% copay, and that is not subject to the differential, which means the 15% cut in reality is actually a 13% cut. So small moves, but at least they're going in the right direction. Now, that said, when the fee schedule came out and it was finalized, it seems like it was the end of the story. But at APTA, we did not accept that. We continued to fight. Now, you all have probably heard about the SMART Act, which Justin Elliott's going to talk about in a minute. But I do want to bring you up to speed on another advocacy avenue that APTA has been pursuing. So we're not giving up on CMS. We're continuing to hit them with everything we've got. And the latest action we've taken is actually submitting a request for what's called an 1135 waiver. Now, this is a really technical regulatory action that CMS can take under the public health emergency. So this is the same regulatory mechanism that allows PTs and PTAs to deliver telehealth during the public health emergency. It allows virtual direct supervision through virtual presence. And we thought, why not go ahead and submit an application for one of these waivers for the entirety of the PTA differential? Now, we've got a really good reason that we think CMS should take this up. We've all seen the Omicron variant sweeping through the country. We have extreme healthcare workforce shortages. PTAs are being asked to step up like never before. All healthcare workers are being asked to step up like never before. And now, we were saying when the fee schedule came out, this couldn't be a worse time to implement it. Well, we were wrong because it got worse. So we're asking CMS to delay implementation for the rest of the year because we need to make sure that the healthcare workforce is as robust as possible. So joining us in this application to get this 1135 waiver is the National Association of Rehabilitation Providers, NARA, AOTA signed on, NASAL, which is the National Association for the Support of Long-Term Care. We also got the American Healthcare Association, the National Center for Assisted Living. We've got allies in this fight, and hopefully CMS will take up our cause on delaying the implementation of the PTA differential under the authority granted to them by the public health emergency. So we'll keep you posted on the results of that, but we are hopeful. However, that's not our only option. Of course, our flagship method of fighting the PTA differential is, of course, the SMART Act. And to talk more about what we're doing in Congress and how we're going to get there is Justin Elliott. So we can bring him on now. Hey, Justin.
Hey, Kate, how you doing?
Great. How are you? Tell us about the
I'm
SMART
doing
Act.
okay. And yeah, so I want to say thanks to everybody for taking time out of your busy schedule tonight to join us for this advocacy update on the PTA differential. And so a lot, as Kate described, a lot going on in the regulatory space, but of course, a lot continuing to go on in the U.S. Congress. Now, last time we talked in the fall, there was a big push to have what's known as the SMART Act, H.R. 5536. SMART Act stands for the Stabilizing Medicare Access to Rehab and Therapy, SMART Act. Sponsored by our champions, Congressman Bobby Rush, Democrat from Illinois, and Congressman Jason Smith, a Republican from Missouri, bipartisan legislation with 13 other co-sponsors to date. Now, in the fall and in December, we were making a big push to have the SMART Act added to any moving legislative vehicle that Congress was working on in December. And of course, as folks know, Congress always waits till the very last minute to do an entire year's worth of work. And so what we saw in the early weeks of December was a mad dash by Congress to do a number of must-pass priority issues, such as funding the government so there wasn't a government shutdown, preventing a return to Medicare sequestration, dealing with other cuts and must-pass programs, making sure we fund the Department of Defense. And so they were able to get some of their critical must-pass legislation done before they left for the holidays, but obviously they didn't get everything done. And not only did they not address the SMART Act, there's a long laundry list of critical issues throughout healthcare and throughout all of the government that they just didn't take up before they left. And so now Congress has to work even harder, especially during the first quarter of 2022, to get some of these priority bills that have not been addressed yet. They got to get them through as quickly as possible. And that's where advocacy in support of HR 5536 comes into play, because we're not out of the game yet. Our legislation, of course, what it would do three policy asks. One, at this point, it would suspend the differential through January of 2023. Of course, it would also then, if and when the differential comes into effect, would exempt rural and underserved areas. And third, it would implement a policy that APTA has long advocated for, and that is changing the supervision requirements or supervision level under Medicare Part B from the current burdensome direct supervision requirement to general supervision. That will allow PTAs to work at the top of their license and also provide flexibility for clinics that currently have this very restrictive direct supervision requirement. So Congress is now back in town. They are back here in DC, and they've got a ton of work that they have to get done. And so we are launching again our aggressive advocacy campaign to highlight and push Congress to focus on the SMART Act. Now, one of the things, the variables that we had in December that we hopefully won't have moving forward, is that in December, there were so many different cuts that Medicare was facing and the government was facing. They had the sequestration cut. We had the other fee schedule cut. We had what's known as the PAYGO cut. So when you were talking to members of Congress in the fall, you'd said, we talked about the PTA differential, and they'd be like, well, what cut are we talking about? Because there were literally half a dozen cuts that were on the table. And so they've addressed some of them. Now we can get them to hopefully to focus on the other cuts, and this one being the big one. And so earlier today, APTA launched an action alert to our members. If you're not part of the APTA Advocacy Network, please be sure to sign up at apta.org/advocacy. That way you can receive these action alerts either through email or through your smartphone. And it allows individuals for our members to contact members of Congress and basically to ask them to support HR 5536. Now, what we're doing is putting in the chat box a link to our Patient Access Center. And if you look at that link, that's open access. It is available to members, non-members, patients, your friends, your family, your uncle, your sister. Share that link with everybody because what we are doing is trying to, again, generate as much grassroots support on this bill. Now, I know folks have already probably contacted their member of Congress on the House to support HR 5536. We need to keep doing that. and keep resending, because two things. One is we need to keep increasing the number of co-sponsors on the bill. As I said, we have 15 total. Right now, we have 9 Democrats, 6 Republicans. That's a good bipartisan mix. Let's keep building that up. But this is critical. In February, a month from now, Congress has to pass what's known as a continuing resolution, a CR. This is a must-pass bill that they have to get through rather quickly. And what that does is it essentially funds the government, make sure that we won't have a government shutdown. If they don't pass this continuing resolution, this CR, in February, government shuts down. So we know that that's going to be the very first opportunity of a moving legislative vehicle that is a must pass, that's going to fly through through Congress because they have to get it done. We are asking that HR 5536 be added and hooked on to this continuing resolution. And so our ask now, between now and February, is not only, please be a co-sponsor of HR 5536, but ask your member of Congress to push that this bill be added to the must-pass continuing resolution in February. And so we're telling your member of Congress, listen, you need to talk to the Speaker of the House, to the minority leader, and say this needs to be part of that package, that CR, that must-pass bill, because that's something that's got to move. And so that's really going to be our first target, our first opportunity to get this legislation moving. And so, again, we have a lot of activity right now. And again, we have a grassroots building. Again, call, email, write, tweet to your House member and ask them again to not only support HR 5536, we want them to be as a co-sponsor. And again, to push that this bill be added to the must-pass continuing resolution. And so that is just, a snapshot of what we see happening in the next 8 weeks. Now, if it doesn't get attached to the continuing resolution, there's going to be other opportunities throughout the year, but we want this to get passed pretty quick because we want to have this differential suspended at least for the rest of 2022. And the sooner we get that done, the better. So that's our first and quickest opportunity. But if that doesn't happen, we're going to keep on. There are going to be other opportunities. We're going to keep on fighting. But I really do want to give a shout out to our congressional champions, Congressman Bobby Rush, Congressman Jason Smith, for their being champions of this issue and really pushing forward. And of course, we have a number of other groups that are supporting us, not just APTA, we have AOTA and a number of groups that are also working to it. And really hats off to the PTA caucus for all of their work and advocacy and support on this. Couldn't do it without you. So that's kind of it in a nutshell with Congress. Now, I would also point out there's a different situation we have with 2022. 2022 is an election year, and that's going to complicate a couple things because probably right around July is when it's really going to pivot to the 2022 midterm elections. And so we've got to really build up support and energy and momentum before folks start thinking about the next campaign. So again, thanks for your support. And Jody, that's the latest we have from Capitol Hill. A lot going on, and definitely more updates in the weeks and days and weeks ahead.
Great. We appreciate these updates. Justin, can you tell us who our other current sponsors for HR 5536 are?
Yes, Jody, great question, because here's the deal. If I'm going to read off the list of our current co-sponsors. If your member of the House of Representatives is on this list, you don't need to tell them to co-sponsor the bill. You need to thank them. And so along with our two main champions, Congressman Bobby Rush and Congressman Jason Smith, here we go. From the state of Washington, Congressman Derek Kilmer. From the state of Arizona, Congresswoman Debbie Lesko. From West Virginia, Congressman David McKinley. From Arizona, also, Congressman Tom O'Halloran. From Indiana, Congresswoman Jackie Walorski. From the great state of Ohio, Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur. From Oregon, Congresswoman Susan Bonamici. From North Carolina, Congressman G.K. Butterfield. From North Dakota, Congressman Kelly Armstrong, who I might also add is a co-sponsor of a number of APTA other priority bills. From Illinois, Congressman Mike Quigley. From California, Congressman Jimmy Panetta. Also from California, Tony Cardenas. From Nebraska, Congressman Don Bacon. And also from Illinois, Congresswoman Janice Schakowsky. Now we have that list and put that list to you, and so that way you'll know who are our current champions. again, if I named your member of Congress, if that was someone who is your current representative, send them a little thank you note. But we need to get that list even greater and continue to add to our champions.
Oh, definitely. Everybody, please get out there, start calling your Congress people and get them on board with this important legislation. Justin, can you also tell us, aside from AOTA, what other organizations have endorsed HR 5536 with us?
Yeah, and we'll put in the chat box, if we haven't already, a link to the press release that Congressman Bobby Rush released back in October when this legislation was introduced. And you'll see, of course, in this press release, quotes from former APTA President Sharon Dunn and, of course, the president of AOTA, Wendy Hildebrand. But, again, we're not alone in this. We do have a number of other groups, patient groups, provider groups, as well as employer groups. And just to give you an idea, some of the groups that have also endorsed this bill include the Brain Injury Association of America, United Cerebral Palsy, AOTA, NARA, National Association of Rehab Agency and Providers, NASAL, National Association for the Support of Long-Term Care, the American Healthcare Association, the American Congress of Rehabilitation Medicine. Let's see, who else we have? We have, in terms of employer groups, we have groups like Select Medical and Athletico. So you'll see that it's a good mix of providers, employers, and patient groups all coming together to really support this legislation. This isn't just something that we're alone in, but a number of other groups have said, yeah, this is not a really good policy, especially to do right now. And so we are truly grateful for all the groups, all the patient groups, all the provider groups, all the different employer groups, our components, chapters and sections and academies who have all come together to support this legislation.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me jumping in, Jody, just to add on that you don't have to be a healthcare provider to contact your member of Congress to support this legislation. We've got 2 action centers on the website. There's the Member Action Center that only members can access, but we also have the Patient Action Center. And that doesn't mean you have to be a patient, but this is the link that you can send to your friends, your family, post it on your Facebook, post it on social media, get your neighbors involved, and they can contact their member of Congress as well. Everybody's taxes goes towards Medicare, so everybody has a say in how those dollars get spent. And right now is not the time to implement a payment differential when we're in the middle of a healthcare crisis. So get your friends and family involved. You don't have to be a member of APTA. You don't have to be a PT or a PTA. Everybody can get involved in this fight.
Great. Thank you both so much. Does anyone else have any comments or questions out there? I do see a comment from Debbie in Michigan. Hello, we're so happy you joined us. I hope that this information is giving you a lot to take home and work with your fellow PTAs and with your legislators.
We have a lot of good members of the House in Michigan. So Debbie, be sure to reach out to those Michigan folks.
Definitely. All right, so we're going to give you guys just another minute to see if anyone else has any questions.
And Jody, again, just to plug the APTA Advocacy Network. If folks are not familiar with it, you go in onto apta.org. You'll see an icon for the Advocacy Network on the advocacy page. And it really, when you subscribe to it, it's a couple things that happen. One, not only will you get alerts, action alerts like the one we sent out today, urging folks to send these emails to their members of Congress, which I have to say, it's already written for you. It's a template letter. You log in, it's bing, bang, boom. You hit a button, and it takes literally less than 5 minutes. But you also will receive the APTA Advocacy newsletter, which provides information on a whole host of different issues. Mm-hmm. So it's a great way to stay up to date on all the things that are happening throughout the country, not only what's going on congressionally, but also in regulation. And we also provide updates as some of the big things that are happening at the state level. State legislatures are going into session this month. And so we have a number of issues we'll be looking at, again, to protect the PTA scope of practice. And so it's a great way to stay up to date on this bill, HR 5536, the SMART Act. but everything going on in terms of advocacy at the federal and state level.
All right. And I just wanted to give another little shout out. A couple more people just said thank you for the information. I know they're going to find it really helpful. Jackie, Chris, Carol, thank you guys all for being here. We appreciate it. I know that you guys are going to use this information to start working with your legislators. Jessica, thank you for being here. Let's see.
You know, and Jody, one other thing I want to point out, we do have a position paper on apta.org on this bill. And so again, if you go to apta.org, and we actually have a landing page on the PTA differential. If you go to apta.org, you'll see the icon that will say PTA differential information. Click on that, and we have a whole menu of different resources. One of the things that you can share with your member of Congress, or just put on out at your clinic or wherever, is the APTA position paper in support of HR 5536. It provides all the information on what the bill does, why it's important, and really why that needs to be enacted. So again, check out the position paper, check out the different articles, the blog posts, lots of resources there on this issue. If you've never advocated before and you want to just read a little bit more, feel a little bit more comfortable, that's the place to go to get everything you need to know about this issue.
Yeah, and let me just add, if you have any questions or any concerns, if you're worried and you don't feel comfortable doing this, or you have a question about the actual policy and how it works, just send us an email, advocacy@apta.org. We're really good about replying to emails, getting you guys the information you need, making sure you're going to the correct advocacy center, whatever you need, we'll make sure you get it if you just shoot us an email, advocacy@apta.org.
Awesome. All right, Justin, Kate, do you guys have any last minute thoughts to throw out before we wrap this up then?
Hey, this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. And right now we're making a hard dash to that finish line. I know it's been a rough road, and with the pandemic and everything else we've had to deal with, and now the Omicron surge and everything else going on in healthcare. But we're not giving up. This is a bad policy. It's bad timing. It doesn't make sense. And, we need Congress and CMS to take action. We've been fighting with CMS for years on this. And now we're going to Congress saying, listen, CMS isn't listening. You got to step in. And so now more than ever, we need to get Congress to really focus on this bill. A lot going on in Congress, a lot of noise going on in Congress. And so, standing united, advocating, we got to make as much noise to get above the noise on HR 5536. So thanks everybody for your perseverance, and thank you for your advocacy. And thank you for being members of APTA.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Justin said. Hang with us. We're not giving up. We know that we've asked a lot from you in terms of getting involved and advocating. And, we've got to keep at it until we get across the finish line. But like I said, we're not giving up. I know you guys aren't giving up. So hang with us. Let's get this bill passed. Let's get CMS to take action on this. We're going to do whatever we've got to do to get the results we need.
Definitely. And I just want to take a minute to thank everybody for being here with us tonight. And don't forget, at CSM, we're going to have the PTA Town Hall on Friday, February 4th from 6:30 to 8:30 a.m., where Justin and Kate will join us and give us another update. So your next update is right around the corner at CSM. And you'll be able to take that information home, share that, use it to advocate with your legislators. So thank you all for being with us tonight. We look forward to seeing you at CSM, and have a great evening.